It is 1 a.m. on November 1st, 1943. Deep in the North Atlantic, the USS Borie cuts through the darkness, hunting for enemy submarines amidst a violent storm. Suddenly, a blip registers on the ship's radar. Contact 8,000 yards away at 170. In command is 30-year-old Lieutenant Charles Harris Hutchins. He wastes no time, issuing the order to give chase at maximum velocity. Turn 170, flank speed. The Borie surges forward, its hull powering through punishing 15-foot waves. 5 nautical miles away, the U-405, a Type 7C U-boat commanded by Corvettenkapitan Rolf Heinrich Hauptmann, sits surfaced in the roiling water. Under the cover of night, Hauptmann is recharging his batteries. But deep within the iron belly of the vessel, the hydrophone operator picks up a disturbance. It is the unmistakable rhythmic churning of propellers. "High-speed ship bearing 90, the operator shouts his report. Hauptmann realizes instantly that there are no friendly vessels in this sector. This must be an American destroyer. "Prepare to dive, all crew to battle stations." Alarms scream through the U-boat, and the 45-man crew scrambles desperately to take the ship beneath the waves. Back aboard the USS Borie, Lieutenant Hutchins scans the oppressive darkness for any visual sign of his quarry. He sees nothing, relying entirely on the radar operator's stream of data. Hutchins barks course corrections to match the target's movements. Steady as she goes, 2000, bearing 265. But then the signal vanishes from the screen. "Contact has been lost, sir." The report sends a chill down Hutchins' spine. The U-boat has submerged. The Germans know they are being hunted, and the engagement has shifted into a deadly game of cat and mouse. "Half speed," Hutchins orders, and he returns on sonar. With the enemy submerged, capturing the echoes of the U-boat is their only hope. Suddenly a ping returns. Sonar contact 2,000 yards bearing 170. "Turn 170! Hutchins brings the ship around to intercept. Beneath the surface, the German hydrophone operator strains to listen, but he can only determine the Borie's general direction. The data is too vague for a precise counterattack. What he can hear, however, is the terrifying sound of propellers growing louder, accompanied by the relentless pulse of active sonar. "They're very close, Captain," Hauptmann reacts instantly. "Turn to port." Aboard the Borie, sonar operators watch the U-boat drift into lethal range, 600 yards. "Prepare port launchers for depth charges." The crew moves with practiced speed, the clatter of the depth charge racks audible over the storm as they ready the release. Then the sonar trace shifts abruptly. "Contact has been lost, sir." The U-boat has slipped directly beneath their keel. 500 yards, now bearing starboard, drawing fast. "Full to starboard." Hutchins commands a hard turn to pursue, swinging the destroyer's stern toward the submarine to bring the rear depth charges to bear. 300 yards. "Fire!" The charges launch with heavy thuds, arching through the air to splash into the sea just beside the U-405's nose. Underwater, the U-boat is rocked violently by the blasts, the shock waves punching in the submarine's bow. "Flooding in the bow, sir." The report is dire. Flooding is impossible to stem while fully submerged due to the immense water pressure. Hauptmann is left with no choice. "Surface and man the guns!" As the USS Borie sails past the drop zone, her sailors look back at the churning water. The sea is still settling from the explosions when they witness the massive shape of the U-boat bursting from the depths. "It's surfaced on our stern! Turn on the searchlight!" "Inform lights where to point." The spotlights blaze to life, illuminating the U-405 against the black ocean. Dozens of German sailors pour out of the hatches, rushing to man their 20mm guns. They open fire immediately. The weapons come alive with deafening bangs, sending tracers streaking over the waves to slam into the Borie's hull and superstructure, forcing American sailors to dive for cover. On the U-405, German sailors brave the heavy wind and crashing waves, squinting into the blinding glare of the Borie's spotlight as they fire their autocannons. But they know small-caliber fire is not enough. The German crew scrambles to ready their heavy 88mm deck gun. Hutchins recognizes the escalating danger and acts swiftly. "All guns, local control, pointer fire." The American guns roar in response. The initial salvos fly high, splashing harmlessly into the water behind the submarine. However, it does not take long for the Borie's 20mm cannons to find their range. Shells begin to crash through the U-405's forecastle, devastating the German gunners, including those attempting to man the vital 88mm. "Heavy losses reported. Reinforce the deck guns." "Keep firing!" A stream of determined Germans rushes the deck, but they do not last. They fall in droves, sliding into the dark waters amidst the fray. Brave men reach the 80 millimeters and attempt to aim, but as they look down the sights, they find themselves staring directly at a wall of 4-inch main guns. They are too late. The shells slam into the forecastle in a brutal strike. When the smoke clears, the U-405's 88mm gun and its valiant crew are gone. The Borie continues its wide turn, pummeling the enemy without relent, but Hutchins knows that hits to the conning tower alone will not sink the vessel. He needs to deal a fatal blow. Ram it! The helmsman steers the destroyer directly toward the target as Hutchins warns the crew, "Stand by for a ram." Stand by for a ram. All hands brace for impact as the ship barrels down at 27 knots. The USS Borie crashes directly into the side of the U-405, buckling her bow. Deep inside the American ship, Chief Engineer Kenneth Miles Lucas watches torrents of water gush from ruptured plates. "Get me the repair team." On the submarine, Hauptmann stumbles to his feet and screams his order. "Attack!" German sailors charge out of the hatches, and a massive, chaotic firefight breaks out across both decks. The Borie sailors wield Tommy guns, pistols, and rifles, but others fight with whatever is at hand. Flare pistols, shell casings, heavy misfired shells, and even kitchen knives become weapons in the melee. The Germans fight back desperately, but the Americans hold the advantage of cover and elevation. The U-boat's deck offers no protection, and its last defenders stand no chance. Incredibly, the U-405 remains afloat and functional, though the crew is devastated and stripped of all weaponry save for their torpedoes. "Full back, hard to port!" The U-boat pulls with all its power, attempting to slip from the Borie's grasp. The Americans watch as the submarine begins to slide underneath them. But the situation on the destroyer is grim. Deep in the engine compartment, engineers attempt speedy repairs as the water rises. Lucas and his men continue to work the turbines, battling through the flood. The ship moves forward, now laden with hundreds of tons of seawater. "Prepare torpedoes." One of the Borie's triple mounts stirs to life. "Fire!" A torpedo blasts into the sea, tearing a path toward the enemy, but it misses the mark. Hauptmann is in a terrible position, managing a ship with only 15 of his 45 men remaining. He orders a final desperate gambit. "Turn around, prepare torpedoes!" On the USS Borie, the crew spots the U-405 coming about for an attack run. Hutchins, however, has a plan. Disable the searchlight. The beam that had been crucial for their gunfire suddenly cuts out, plunging the ocean back into darkness. On the U-405, Hauptmann is surprised by the sudden blackout. He believes this is their chance to escape. "Abort torpedo attack, turn to starboard!" But the Borie's radar has never lost sight of the submarine. Hutchins' trap has worked. Enable the searchlight. The lights blaze back on, revealing the U-405 directly in front of them. Ram it! Without hesitation, the helmsman turns toward the submarine, aiming for a direct hit. "Hi, I am David Webb, the narrator of this film and the head of Yarnhub. If you think films like this are important, and you would like to invest in Yarnhub as a video producer, and also with our move into gaming, you can now buy shares in our company. Please click the link in the description for the full details on how you can own a piece of our company and share in our future." Hauptmann sees the destroyer coming and orders evasive maneuvers. The U-405 makes a nimble turn, sneaking past the Borie's starboard side, but Hutchins refuses to let the enemy go. "Hard to starboard." The destroyer trembles as it strains through the violent maneuver, the stern swinging out toward the enemy to bring the depth charges back into range. "Fire depth charges!" The canisters fly off the mount, splashing perfectly around the enemy ship. The resulting explosions send the U-405 into a death roll, its hull finally breached beyond repair. Silence falls across the water until a flare shoots up from the stricken U-boat. It is a signal of surrender. Moments later, 15 survivors and their captain emerge to board life rafts. The USS Borie inches closer to the men, the crew looking to help them in the heaving waves. But suddenly a lookout shouts a warning, "Flare astern." This is shortly followed by another scream, "Torpedo in the water!" The Americans assume another German submarine has joined the fight. Hutchins immediately orders the Borie to turn its stern toward the incoming threat to present a thin profile. Tragically, this maneuver sends the destroyer plowing straight through the German life rafts. The Borie's crew is forced to abandon the survivors awaiting rescue. That rescue would never come, and the men of U-405 are all lost to the Atlantic. The USS Borie has won the engagement, but she is mortally wounded. The flooding is unstoppable. Chief Engineer Lucas and his men continue operating the engines even as they are forced to dive underwater to reach the valves. Eventually, they evacuate through the roof hatch. The order is given to abandon ship. Tragically, the sea claims 27 of the Borie's 122 men before rescue ships arrive at the scene. Both Lieutenant Commander Charles Harris Hutchins and Kenneth Miles Lucas survived the war, with Hutchins later awarded the Navy Cross for his actions.